everyone, and welcome back to the Salty Beans channel. I'm Meg.
I'm Stacy.
And today we are doing something very different, to which I have to give a disclaimer. So, while I do not think anyone under the age of 14 is probably watching this channel, I have to give it anyways. BCW, if you are watching this and you're under the age of 14, please don't. We swear so much and we make so many inappropriate jokes, or at least I do. It's like, if you're under the age of 14, please don't watch this. You can in a few years you can watch this, but please don't watch this. This movie is very inappropriate. It has themes of it just has very adult themes in it. It's not meant for children. It's borderline rated R. It's borderline a rated R movie. So this is our disclaimer. Please don't watch this if you are underage. That said, we are watching Cool World, which is a Ralph Bakshi movie. So this is the first non-Disney and non-DreamWorks film that we're doing on the channel, and non-Warner, but basically like any like big CU company. This is different. We're doing a Ralph Bakshi movie, and we've never done a Ralph Bakshi movie before. I'll be honest in saying that I don't know a lot. I haven't seen a lot of his work. I'm not a fan of adult cartoons, especially really raunchy adult cartoons. I have a lot of opinions about that kind of stuff. So I don't really watch his work, and therefore I'm not that much of a fan of his work. I understand the appeal, but it's personally not for me. But today we are looking at a movie that is everyone agrees this is one of his worst, and that even he hates because he had no control over it. Apparently, as the story goes, the studio took control over it and completely changed the script, and he was not happy about it. And you can tell.
This was Meg's idea. This wasn't mine.
Well, first of all, we had a small discussion because when we said that we were gonna do this movie next after Swan Princess 2, we had a really interesting discussion over it that made me realize there was a lot more to talk about this movie than I originally thought there was gonna be. So it made me kind of want to do it even more. But also, I actually haven't seen this movie all the way through. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. I've seen a good amount of it, but I have not seen it all the way through. So this will be new for me.
Do you know what the plot line is at all?
Yeah. If you can call it a plot.
Well, I mean, do you know what Holly's motivation is?
Yeah, I
do. Okay. Yeah.
We won't say anything now, but we are going to talk about Holly throughout this movie because we have some not great opinions about it. Oh, God. This is going to be a very interesting experience. Disclaimer, even though we do mostly animated movie commentaries, this will not be our last time doing a live-action animated movie crossover. But I guess I should say, like, ultimate disclaimer, it's like, you probably won't see a movie like Mary Poppins show up because only like 10 minutes of that movie has animated content in it. The reason why we like give movies like this an exception is because a good half of it is like animated, and animation was like a clear put in effort into the project. So yeah, we just kind of wanted to give I just want to give like a disclaimer about that. If you would like to watch the full-length movie with us, you can click the link down below to the Patreon.
Yes, and you can watch it there with us.
and you can watch it there with us. It says directed by Ralph Bakshi, but he had very little to do with the project. The studio completely took over. Like, he literally came into the studio one day and found out that the whole thing was rewritten from scratch by two different people that he had not hired. I see we turned on Captain America, the first Avenger. I actually wish we turned on that movie instead. That would have been more fun.
That's a nice bike.
Why would you get your aging mother a motorbike.
Maybe it's something she always wanted. Well, I don't think she's happy about it, so.
Ah, yes, the gambling casino.
Where are we? I'm not sure where we're at.
I don't know, I can't read it. What does the text say?
It's too small.
This is such an awkward scene. What the fuck is happening?
I'm not entirely sure.
I did say at the beginning of this that it's like, yeah, I know what the plot is if you could even call it that.
What? What? That was a hard cut!
Hello? We're in a different movie now.
That was jarring as fuck! I liked what they did when, after the crash, Brad Pitt, I don't know your name, I'm sorry, he got put in a flashback back into the war. So he's just back from World War II. He's trying to get back to normal life. And with the crash, he's suddenly brought back to the war. He's having flashbacks. And I like that. But to hard cut it to some cartoon completely undermines that whole scene. That was terrible.
Now we're in movie number 3.
And you came to me, Jack. Come to me.
What the fuck?
What are the rules in this?
Also, wait a minute. We just got introduced into this character, and now we're suddenly throwing him into the animated world? What is this? Pacing does not exist.
Oh, okay.
That was a sharp,
God.
so not blended seamlessly. Ah, yes, it's just true to life. Brad Pitt hasn't aged a day in 30 years.
I light up like neon.
All right, let's talk about it. So let's talk about what the scene is doing, right? So Holly is dressed as Marilyn Monroe, and she is dancing along to a scene that she was in. You know, her name is Hollywood. Not subtle. Very clearly a play on the Hollywood, the place. And what they're also clearly trying to emulate is they're very much trying to make her like Marilyn Monroe. But the thing is, Holly is the villain of the story. She is the antagonist. And she is a woman she's very sex driven. She smokes, she drinks, she's unconventional in a lot of ways. What I'm trying to say is that this is the most offensive fucking thing in the entire world. We've talked a little bit about sexism and like how writers have treated female characters a little bit on this channel, but this is, I think, the most egregious we've ever gotten and maybe ever will get. Making a female villain is one thing, but making a hot, sexualized female villain who uses her sexuality to her advantage and then also making her based off of Marilyn Monroe, there's so many things wrong with that sentence.
What I think Marilyn Monroe doesn't get enough credit for is that she was really smart. It wasn't just what the media was pushing out there that, look at how beautiful this woman is and all this whatever. She was really smart, and she was way ahead of her time, honestly. She helped an African American singer be able to sing in a club when she wasn't able to before. She made that happen, and she was progressive, and she had all these ideas I don't think a lot of people know about. They just see her over the grate and the dress flare up, and it's like, she's more than that.
She worked so hard to get women noticed in the industry in a time where women were very much suppressed. And the fact that most people remember for just how beautiful she was, I feel bad for her that that's kind of her legacy because she tried so hard to make it where that wasn't her legacy. She was an unconventional woman by every means. She was outspoken, she drank, she smoked, and she used her sexuality to her advantage, and she had legit power, and she used it to give people who didn't have power a voice as well. That African American singer is just one example of many. Mm-hmm. This was a very powerful woman who wanted to use her power to help others, and to have it where you are using her image and making it where she used her power selfishly, and the males are like the good guys. It's like, oh my god, it's so clear that women did not have anything to do with the script. But she was such offensive to Gree. It pisses me off so much. Listen, guys, I'm gonna be honest. The aesthetic of the hot female villain who uses her sexuality to her advantage, I like it a lot. But Holly doesn't have a character outside of that. It's like I like it in the sense where she has power, she knows what she's doing, and she knows how to use her clear sexual traits to her advantage. And I like it when that character is used for antagonist or protagonist purposes. But the way they do it for Holly is just not the way to go about it. And Marilyn Monroe also died super tragic. She died of a drug overdose. It was so sad. This is a mockery to use her image like this. I'm sorry. This is not a good movie, but of all the things that pisses me off, this is the thing that pisses me off the most. This is the most sexist thing I have ever seen. And that's saying a lot. I've seen some sexist shit in film and television. But this is the worst it's ever going to get because you are using the real life image. Because you are using the image of an actual human being who tried to make shit better for women. You know what it is? It's immaturity. There is a sense of immaturity to Holly. The way she talks, the way she acts and behaves. Like the scene earlier when she was with Brad Pitt and, he pushed her off her and she would, and she was like whining and she was like, I got news for you, big man, and that kind of thing. She's immature, and that lessens the intimidation factor and also the sexualness. Like the thing that makes Marilyn Monroe and other women powerful and sexual at the same time is a level of maturity. But Hollywood is not mature. She's immature, which makes it unattractive.
What's wrong? You don't look right.
It's Holly. I think she's in heat again.
With that noid from last night? Oof, don't worry about it.
Okay, it's been a minute, and Lonette is a way better character than Holly. The things that they're trying to emulate with Holly emulate with Lonette pretty well. Like her body language, she's more closed off, but she stands up straight. She's not trying to show off, but also in the sense that she doesn't feel like she needs to. This is the kind of thing that they were trying to do with Holly and didn't emulate. And that's because they're trying to have Holly show off. So I just want to give a quick apologies right second. This commentary has mostly just us ranting about like the inherent sexism in this movie. And we haven't really been talking about anything else.
And around here, everything goes. Everything except one thing. Noids do not have sex with doodles.
I hate that the conflict of this movie is I can't have sex with a cartoon.
I told you, man, this is what two asexuals get for watching a movie where the main conflict is, do I have sex with the sexy cartoon lady?
Do people who aren't asexual, is this not a bother to them?
I'd say very clearly no, because people have cartoon crushes.
Okay, maybe I just don't get it. Obviously.
Right. You think I get it? I'm with you, man. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Plug without a socket,
Hey, Frank?
Frank? Oh, his name's Frank? Frank. You do not look like a Frank.
No, he doesn't. Who wears gloves when having... Is that a kink?
Maybe it's just for foreplay.
Yeah, let's have the two people who know nothing about foreplay and BDSM talk about foreplay and BDSM.
Let's have the two asexuals judge how this goes.
Because we're such in the right to do that. To any people who are into that stuff, we apologize. This is not a slight against you. We just really hate this movie. Oh, I can go on my rant. I was thinking about this the other day and I had no one to rant it to, but now I can rant about it. Sex scenes are pointless.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I so agree.
Unless it's porn and the whole point is to arouse the audience, your sex scene is pointless. In anything that is basically not porn or something BDSM or just something that is clearly meant to convey the idea, the whole point of it is just that it's just a bunch of sex scenes. Sex scenes are pointless. In something that is completely story driven, all you need is the suggestion of a sex scene.
Nails, was she a doodle when she aced him?
Yeah, so what?
So what? Oh, so what? Well, what happens to noids who traffic in the cool world, Nails? When they get killed by a doodle, they become a doodle themselves.
Hot dog.
Fuck you! What?
So what we've learned here is that Sinbad is a much more attractive animated Brad Pitt. Okay, I don't know where to start. This isn't a good movie. That's, I think, a good place to start. This movie's complicated. On the one hand, I mentioned before that Ralph Bakshi's type of films don't appeal to me in the slightest. That said, I do feel bad for him. I know what he originally wanted for this movie, and I don't know if it would have been good, but this was clearly a vision that was ripped away from him and taken advantage of by the studio. And I do think, and it's something that clearly shows, you can tell that this movie does not have a singular identity to it in the slightest. There's no structure in its plot, in its synopsis, or in its character arcs. It just gave the characters pretty bare bone desires, and it just felt like that the characters that they clearly felt like they had thought about, they just decided to push them aside for Jack and Holly. I'm not saying Frank and Lonette are particularly interesting characters, but it felt like that they had personalities to them and motivations outside of the whole let's have sex thing. I feel like there was really some depth in them that was never given time to do anything with, because we had to keep cutting back to Holly and Jack. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing with Holly because I went into it throughout the review, but I will never forgive them for what they did to Holly, to Marilyn Monroe's image in this film. It's so bad and awful, and the only other way I can describe it is that it's in bad taste. This movie is in bad taste, but the bad kind of bad taste, like the really bad kind of bad taste.
I feel I said all my points during the commentary, and I agree with what you said. So I'd mostly just be reiterating what we've already said. For the minimal amount that they did have for Frank, I wish it focused on him and not Jack or Holly specifically. I liked that they had him. He came back from the war, and he's trying to get back to home life, but he can't, and now he's stuck in this world. Okay, here's what I'm trying to say, and I don't mean this in a lighthearted way at all. He's in the cartoon world and staying there in order to not face his issues in the real world. I don't know how to say that correctly. I'm not trying to make light of PTSD or what people go through during war. That is not my intention at all.
I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that you're trying to say that essentially the conflict should have been him avoiding his problems in the cartoon world, in the fantasy world, and him learning to confront them in the real world.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, and then that can also tie back into with what happened with the motorcycle and his mom and the car. I said in the commentary that maybe he should get on a motorcycle to chase after Holly. But now thinking about it, it doesn't have to be a motorcycle. It can be a car, because it was the car that crashed into the motorcycle. So maybe he's just afraid of vehicles and tries to distance himself from that and to stay away from those. But in order to save the cartoon world, maybe, I don't know what's going on there. But or to help the human world, he has to get in this car. And he has to face what he's been trying to not face since the 40s, and now we're in the 90s. It would just tie everything all back in. It would make a little bit more sense than whatever this movie was.
Yeah, it just, again, this movie feels like it doesn't have a strict identity. It just feels like so many people wanted different things with it. It makes it not executed well. I'm not going to say which movie, but I will say that at some point in the future, maybe soonish, we're going to do another live action animated crossover film, and it'll be much better than this.
Yeah, I think. Well, I was going to say I think I would rather watch Shark Tale than this movie, but they're kind of borderline.
Oh no.
That's a hard decision.
Because at least I liked watching, like, when Frank was on screen or when Lonette was on screen, at least I liked watching the two of them. I didn't like watching anything in Shark Tale. Shark Tale was unredeemable.
Wow, that's a real toss-up. Shark Tale or Cool World? Which one?
Oh god, that's rough. At least Cool World, not all of it's great, but at least it has some good animation in it. What good animation?
Oh, yeah, that is a good point.
Next movie. Next movie's gonna be different because we actually disagree. The first time we've done a movie where we disagree. So we've been mostly avoiding doing movies like this because we've been trying not to test our friendship too much.
Even more than we have.
More than we have. But this might be testing it a bit because, well, you do like Quest of Camelot more than me. There is that. So I'm thinking maybe this isn't testing it too much, but in that case, this is the opposite because I love this movie wholeheartedly. And in my defense, I've seen it really recently and you haven't seen it in years.
Yeah.
But I love this movie. This movie's also for our Christmas special. So next time you will be getting our Christmas movie. Hopefully on time and not 3 months late. This movie's a childhood favorite of mine. I love it a lot. And it's a movie I watch around every year during Christmas. I know plenty of people who don't like this movie. You are not the first. My dad doesn't like this movie either. For me, it's just one of those movies that I love to watch. And I feel like it's a movie that gets a little bit too much of a bad rap. I feel like people tend to kind of exaggerate the things that they don't like about it a bit too much. I'm not saying that their opinions aren't valid, but I am saying that I think that people just remember it as being worse than it actually is. And I say that with valid opinions in mind because I have watched this recently, whereas most people will watch this a couple times and then say years in advance that they didn't like it. And yeah.
I just remembered the movie being boring. I will absolutely do my best to go in with an open mind because I maybe do just remember it being worse than what it is. I mean, that's what happened with Brave, and I ended up liking Brave, so maybe I'll like this one again too. I also barely remember anything about it either. Like, I know who's in it. I know that.
Oh, I can hear your dog now. This movie will be interesting. It's a little unconventional in most movies we've watched. This one has a plot that's pretty bare bones, and that's partially because it's based off of a storybook. It's also one of the few movies, actually it's probably the only movie that we have seen and maybe are going to see where the characters are nameless. That's kind of a rarity in most films, but this one decided to stick to that. Much like this movie, it's going to be a little unconventional from what we usually do, but I actually like this movie. Once again, if you would like to watch the full-length movie with us, you can check the link down in the description below to the Patreon. And that is it. Bye!
Bye.